right in front, of course, of the JD Arena. It's quite a cool looking one. You know you're there. That's all I'll say. You'll know where you are when you roll up to it. Of course, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am BP. This is Clement. RNG out of contention for locking in second place. They shall not get top 2. And the reason for it, of course, is they cannot overtake Top Esports.
Yep, and even in the closest scenario where they tie on game difference, Top Esports still own the head-to-head. And just a reminder for everyone, it goes match score, game difference, and then head-to-head. And it came down to the very last rung, but TOP will secure that second seed. They will be slotted directly into semifinals, while RNG will have to start from quarters.
Yeah, and see, not a terrible situation. You're still top 3 team, but of course, RNG going to be, honestly, I think they're going to be disappointed in that game. You're looking out of the difference between, say, the RNG coming into playoffs and now the IG that we saw earlier. IG much happier. It was a much cleaner game from them. And then for RNG, it just looked like they were still kind of lost as to what to do with top lane.
Exactly. They threw a lot of resources and ganks into top lane, and that was all good. But later in the game, I felt like they relied on Langx too much to actually bring into the team fights when he really wasn't at the item points where he could one-shot the members coming in from JD Gaming. So that took a lot of time away from them, and we're actually going to go into some of the B-rolls to see how the curse of RNG, the curse of success, because they're ahead so much of the time that when they're behind, they don't do a very good job of coming back into the game. They're not patient enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we'll see now exactly how the, it didn't work out for the side of RNG. But we do, of course, have our MVP as well from the side of that game. It was Imp, and the guy had a monster game as we look at some of the issues you talk about for RNG.
And this is kind of how it started. It was unfortunate roll, good play from Yagao. They get the early kill onto Karma. They have the redemptions to shove this in, and massive CS lead. And what RNG did was, instead of equalizing on the top side, they dropped the Herald mid, and they had Karma go into the lane where, she was tower dove. Again, it prompted a lot of reactions from RNG. They needed a fight as soon as possible. This is their second Baron play afterwards. They tried to rush it against the poke composition after the trinket was already used. So full vision on RNG. Their initiation only gets one person. And after the tools are gone, JD Gaming have a very easy time cleaning up. And this is the team fight where it really gave JD Gaming both of the major objectives. Imp got a great position on the team fight, and it really showcased kind of the lack of initiations, lack of AoE lockdown that RNG had on this composition. Couldn't really find the backline whatsoever, even though Langx had a lot of items at this point. Couldn't go onto Imp himself. And
I was going to say, you can even see Imp just in general for that entire last fight. He was constantly auto-attacking, constantly getting his spells out onto multiple members and really just being a nuisance. And no one on the side of RNG was even touching him. No one even looked at him. Even when the Sejuani was right beside him, she doesn't even look at him.
Yeah, I think Imp played really, really well in this series. And we saw in that team fight in particular, he actually dealt 5 times the damage of Uzi on the Xayah here. And I think this is a perfect answer for JD Gaming against RNG. We talked about RNG as being a very slow-playing team most of the time. And if you have these early, crazy skirmish type of teams, JD Gaming can oftentimes overtake RNG. They are known as the kryptonite of RNG. During their best runs, it was JD Gaming that actually fought them to a 50-50 in most of their match scores.
Yeah, we'll see now. Of course, we'll be going into Game 2 very, very shortly, but there will be no substitutions from either side. I'm sure RNG already know they've locked third place. They're kind of maybe just seeing if they can, get the current roster back to where it should be. For JD Gaming, of course, out of playoffs, but this is positive signs for them coming into a potential gauntlet run. Yeah,
it definitely is. They still have a lot of time to prepare, and I think JD Gaming is the most dangerous team in a BO5. If you think about how they won Spring, it was off a lot of unexpected picks. You just didn't think that they were going to go for the Fiddlesticks Karsa composition where they had the terror party from 3,000 range away. It was so damn fun to watch. And like Yagao coming in, being hot, Imp being really, really good as well. And also just Coach Home, I think he's probably one of the best coaches at reading how the matchups are going in a best-of-5 series. So they're going to be very dangerous. And RNG right now, they're the ones actually in a more precarious position. If you ask me who has a better chance to go to Worlds, I might even go with JD Gaming at this point, because if RNG lose their first series, most likely against IG at this point, that means they're out of Worlds. They just don't have the points to contest. They're most likely not going to they just won't make Gauntlet.
And that's a scary prospect. You know
Very
what I mean?
scary.
Like when you think about that, and like we talked about it the other day, and we keep bringing it up, is like, you know, I name a couple of players: Xiahu, Rookie, Scout, Knight, Doomby, you know, Zoom. Who of the three of them don't go to Worlds? Like, you know what I mean? And like, and it's fantastic, but again, it's bittersweet. Like I said earlier, it's fantastic that we have such great competition in our league, but at the same time, it's just only three teams can go, and you got to be. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It has to be a full year that you have to be consistent. Otherwise, you're just not going to make it. And unfortunately for RNG, the spring kind of issues that they had are coming back to bite them.
Yeah, it's definitely the case here. IG, Top Esports, FBX, JD Gaming will all have more points than RNG if they lose in the first, just lose in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So very, very slim chance of them making it if they lose, and that's I just can't imagine the pressure that brings onto the team.
I was going to say, like, especially if you're going, like, so we obviously saw the bracket earlier. It is almost certainly going to be Suning versus IG, with the next one going up against RNG. Yep. If it IG, which we would arguably expect it to be winning in that matchup, we'll have a, you know, we'll talk about that when playoffs come around. But if you're RNG and you're coming up against a kind of, you know, an IG that's looking a bit revitalized, and you're on the downward slope, you're feeling a bit, you know, I suppose, what would be the word, you know, kind of like scared almost, you know what I mean? You're not feeling as confident because you're like, well, we haven't gotten anything to work.
True, and I actually feel like RNG's been one of those teams that does have sometimes a lot of mental blockage when coming from behind. A lot of times they feel confident, they're strong when they're ahead 2-1 up in the series. That's where they want to be. But when they fall behind, like we've seen in the finals of 2018 against IG, they do seem a little bit lost, and they need that mental reset to come back in. So it's tough. I think RNG is definitely a team that performs worse under pressure.
And I think that's also why, like, you know, we see teams like JD Gaming, like IG, just be kind of, like you said, the kryptonite to a team like RNG, because these top lane issues haven't just formulated overnight. These are, you're looking at the likes of Juke, the Shy, Zoom, Morgan now coming into that conversation as well for JD Gaming. That's the level of caliber that they're going against, and RNG just don't have an answer for them.
Yeah, I just think it's RNG, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and RNG's problems are not caused by a single person. It's very systemic within their organization. They've had this problem for ages right now, is they just don't really know how to get their top laner in a good position, engaged in the game, where he can do his job, protect the bot lane, but at the same time not cave in on the top side. So that's going to be a very delicate balance for them. They're going to have to relearn kind of how to keep the macro game up, how to give sufficient resources to their top lane players, be it Love ZZR or Langx.
See the Gangplank banned away. Zoom will not get his hands on that again. Nautilus, Ezreal, Olaf banned by JD Gaming, along with the Silas and the Yuumi. This time, though, Ming on his patented Tam Kench. They could go with the Gragas again. It's actually a pretty decent flex here for JD Gaming. They can throw it in towards the bot side, as we've seen last game, and Kanavi can play it as well. So I quite like this first pick from them, because it just leaves a lot open to interpretation.
And this Tahm Kench has actually been a great engaged tool for RNG as well. Ming has been one of the better Tahm Kenches to just use the Abyssal Voyage blindly into the backlines of the enemy team, bring Karsa with you, and find an engage that way. So I really like this pick, as you were talking about, is also much more offensive on RNG's roster than on most other teams. JD Gaming, however, look like they're going down pretty much the same route. It does look very much like a poke composition in the formation phase. You have Corki already and the disengage that Lurmal played so damn well in game one.
We see now, not going with the Zoe this time round, obviously respecting that RNG could have a potential counter to it. Akali is locked in by RNG. That can go to Langx or Xiahu. I would expect it to go to Xiahu, but we have seen it flex between a couple of different lanes. And look like the Ashe Tahm Kench can be picked up here for Uzi and Ming. So good safety, good engage. It's a kind of a I wouldn't say a tried and tested, you know, bot lane, but definitely something, you know, that we're not, you know, it's no secret to the league.
Yeah, we just don't see RNG themselves play it that much. I think that's what we're trying to get at right here. But I actually really like this lane, because there aren't a lot of 2v2s that actually just beat out on it. You need a lot of jungle pressure to shut down Ashe. and Tom Kench. They have a lot of poke potential, a lot of damage going in, good range on the auto attacks as well. And I like what RNG are recognizing here. It's not that they're not that they lack more damage on the team. It's just that they need more early game options, more flexibility to help out on Xiahu and Karsa in the early to mid game. So I think this is a really good answer to how the game was going in game 1.
We see the Pike banned away here by RNG. Haven't seen a Pike in quite a while, but still, of course, a
Tom
very
Kench counter.
Yeah, I was going to say very big Tom Kench counter. You know, when you want to catch a fish, you go fishing. And of course, Pike does have that hook to be able to kind of set that one up. But again, not going to be seeing him in this game. And it's going to be the Skarner banned away by JD Gaming along with the Sejuani. And I got to admit, we said it as well last time, Karsa had a fantastic game despite RNG losing in that last one on the Sejuani. So I do like this from JD Gaming, recognizing that it is still a potential power pick for RNG in the second game.
It's pretty clear what JD Gaming are aiming for. They're taking away all the initiation options from Nautilus all the way to Sejuani. It's definitely a poke comp in the formation. I wouldn't be surprised if this Corki still goes into the top lane and they pick something up like maybe even a Varus in the mid lane to fill that one out. You can see RNG is very aware of the potential for another poke comp forming up. They just take away the Jace from most likely Yagao, and we have seen Zoom play the Corki in the top side.
Looks like it's going to be another Gragas support if this Lee Sin does get locked in. We'll wait for that one to stop being hovered. There it is. Kanavi, I got to admit as well, had a great early game for JD Gaming, was in the right place at the right time, so he locks that one in, leaving their mid lane / top lane as a potential counter pick going into the final pick ban phase.
Ooh, I would love me a Jax.
Never talk about hovers.
Yeah, I know.
Gotta let it be locked in.
I'm sorry. So RNG are probably going to respond with the flex themselves in the solo lanes and then just kind of decide on the matchups afterwards. The Akali mainly has gone towards Xiahu in the mid lane. That's been their preferred snowball lane. And they're still leaving their options somewhat open, but I will say the Aatrox blind top lane in the LPL recently hasn't been working out that well. People have found a lot of good answers to it. We have seen the Gnar take off, we have seen the Jax take off, and also the Camille has been a big counter. If you can get that snowball going early, then there's not much that the Aatrox can actually do. We've seen a lot of Camille's just try to freeze right outside of the terrain, right in front of their tower. It makes Aatrox's life incredibly miserable because you're constantly in range of the hook shot, and it's very easy to freeze against an Aatrox most of the time because whenever he trades, it's typically AoE. So that's been one of those lane counters to Aatrox. I want to see how RNG can play around that.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a skill matchup as a lot in Aatrox's kit to be able to interrupt and stop everything that the Camille wants to do, especially around that hook shot. But compositions are locked and loaded. We talked about it, we got good engage coming in here from JD Gaming, good early game from them as well. But I much prefer this composition coming out from RNG. I feel like it does a lot more in the the kind of early stages as well as in towards that mid game. I think it gives them a lot more avenues, despite regardless of how the laning phase goes, it gives them a lot more outs.
Yeah, you could definitely see that JD Gaming were kind of in conflict with themselves. They wanted to take away the Jarvan for themselves because it's an AoE initiation that does very well against their own composition. But, Kanavi is more of a Lee Sin player in terms of his champion pool. So they decided to give him that instead. And the big difference, like we were talking about from game 1 to this one, at the very least, is that RNG have a lot more options to start the fights that they want to. Jarvan's going to be massive in that one. Abyssal Voyage, you can send a tank into the back line. You can even send an Aatrox there if you so choose to. Akali's going to have a son of her own. There's just a lot more outs against what JD Gaming has been doing.
Of course, RNG now just playing to kind of make sure they don't lose the Battle of Beijing in this derby. JD Gaming looking again as well, just for pride, but a 2-0 over RNG definitely spells good signs for them in a couple of weeks' time for that regional qualifier. They will most likely find themselves in, not 100% confirmed just yet, but they're in a pretty strong position given that they got second in spring. And RNG now, pressure's on for them. This needs to be a kind of a turnaround performance for them overall if they want to start looking good towards those playoffs that start pretty much in a week's time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the riff for game 2 of this best of 3. Can JD Gaming finish it off with a clean 2-0, or will RNG send us to a game 3?
I'd call it a small win for Yagao as he does snag a potion out of that. Ooh.
We take those. But again, nothing too crazy. Deep ward here from the side. Actually, 2 deep wards actually from the side of RNG. They want to know exactly where Kanavi is starting and exactly how he's going to go for, or where he is going to go for in this early game. Jarvan relatively equal in terms of, you know, early game power to the Lee Sin. You could argue the Lee Sin has a little bit more execution damage, but overall should be able to kind of keep pace.
And we're seeing just lining up the compositions. RNG, this is one of the a rare instance that they go for a 1-3-1 this pure. I really want to see how they can execute on it. In my opinion, when RNG was at their best in 2018, it was because that they shared a lot of flex picks across the team, and they were very good at a 1-3-1 style. Before they were just known as purely the protect the Uzi style, they actually had a good 1-3-1. I want that to be on the record. So this is going back to the olden days. I want to see if they can still pull it off.
Grasp the Undying going to be the keystone of choice for this Camille in the top side for Zoom. Exhaust goes down from Ming as he looks to try and just keep Imp down. They've got so much slows and so much, like you talked about, so much safety in pushing themselves up. They do gain a summoner, do lose a summoner, do not gain much more than just pressure in this lane. It is pushing in favor of JDG, so they're going to be sending the Kai'Sa back and then get her to TP in as well. But overall, positives for the RNG bot lane. And you know, something that we don't really get to see it, especially not from RNG, but you know, why is this Tahm Kench Ashe lane so safe? What does it enable your team to be able to do, and what should RNG be looking for into this kind of early mid game?
Well, I think first off, the champions themselves individually in lane are pretty strong champions. Just Ashe with the range and, you know, Tahm Kench, most pick support overall. So just as a baseline power level, it's a very strong lane. And then what it provides you is the fact that you don't have to play through the lane itself necessarily. You have a lot of rotational opportunities to just join jungle fights, to go mid lane. You're not locked down in expanding your advantage into that one single lane. So it becomes very flexible, and it's something that I think expands RNG's repertoire. You look at Uzi and Ming, you always feel like they're going to have an advantage in lane. Now with Ashe and Tahm Kench, they're going to be able to take that advantage to other places much faster.
See already Karsa using the early vision that he had gotten himself and his team had gotten him to be able to track this Lee Sin jungle. Of course, does get spotted out himself, but wins the Scuttle War, so picks that one up for himself without any real contest. Going to rotate himself. You see the ping just going down. He's going to put himself straight away onto that top side Scuttle Crab because he knows the bot side camps for the Lee Sin still very much up and alive, and he will be wanting to take those ones there. We might actually see him engage in this bot side, actually. It'll be interesting to see if this Lee Sin's able to do much with it. They will get out the heal as well, so they're going to be flashes committed here. Uzi does flash, so does the Tahm Kench. Ming perfectly positions himself in front of any Q, but while that all happened, Karsa went mid lane and found first blood for Xiahu.
Yeah, really surprising about the mid lane kill. Actually, no flashes burned for that one, just the pure damage, and just I have to assume a very good EQ.
Yeah, no ignite either. Like,
I'm super surprised that worked.
Yagao must have just got 100% caught out. We'll have to see now. What's a Valkyrie did in? Maybe? I'm not quite sure. But we'll have to hopefully get a replay of that particular one. Does TP back into the tops, or to the mid lane, I should say. But overall, flashes burn on bot sides. There is only a flash available for Imp. No other summoner available for everybody else. Let's see how this mid lane happened.
Okay, so it looks like Yagao was low to start the fight. Oh, wow.
Caught mid Valkyrie. That's
and he didn't even finish the backline wave. Oh, that feels so bad.
It's a bit of a feels bad, man. Did have teleport to get himself back in, so he just gives away first blood and will be able to keep himself relatively safe. Is going towards that Hex Drinker first item, of course, to keep himself alive against this Akali, who has now picked herself up a Hextech gun, or a revolver. Or a Hextech revolver. I keep thinking it's Gunblade. It's like yes and no. It's part of
the gun, but
it's
not
the
the blade
gun,
yet.
but not the blade. Yes, as we see Zoom taking in unfavorable trade into this Aatrox. And again, we talked about it a little bit, but you know, the Camille into Aatrox is very much a skill-based matchup. You know, it's similar to the 2015 Darius versus Fiora setup.
Yeah, I think a lot of it does come down to how the wave is positioned in the lane. A lot of times the one with the freeze, I kind of see as having the advantage here. And you can see Langx here with top lane freeze. Also Jarvan being free to roam towards the top side. You can see the Scuttle there as well. Able to etch out a nice CS cushion.
And overall, it is just like little small advantages now being carved out, especially in that jungle position, as you can see. A couple of camps now in favor for the Jarvan, as well as that assist in the back pocket, so he's able to pick himself up his Bomby Cinder straight away, both going with the red challenging smite. And we see how just, that's not great the Camille's back it was, unfortunately for her. It had to pick up a cloth armor and a second Doran's blade, so not ideal, not ideal, I'll be totally honest. We'll see what Karsa is able to do here.
Yep, and this is a good setup for the team. You do have the wave pushing in on JD Gaming's side. Oh, but that minion is just a little bit too close. I wonder if Ming gets rid of that. Okay.
And they go for it now. They get the volley to put down some slow. Press the attack, or sorry, not press the attack, excuse me. The lethal tempo not available for Uzi for a few seconds. They are going to spot out this Lee Sin as well up towards our top side, but Lee Sin going up the other way. Karsa spending a lot of time towards this bot side. Flash is still available for him. Karsa is going to walk forward. Unfortunately for him, that is going to mean that he's going to have to check that red buff as well.
You gotta love the spider senses here coming out from Imp.
Yeah,
they definitely knew that was coming.
They knew something was afoot, considering how much they were being pushed, allowed to push out. Considering as we said, the Ashe and Tahm Kench got a lot of wave control, shouldn't really be happening.
I would say the Relic Shield really gave it away, because you don't really see someone taking, just using up the Targons when Uzi's full health. You're like, that's fishy.
Yeah, why are they trying to get us to push? But overall, very quiet early game, apart from that first blood in the mid lane. Both sides relatively happy with just kind of farming this one up. It's only about 1,000 gold lead at the 8-minute mark in favor of RNG, which should be, a couple of hundred given back over to the side of JDG. They do not see the Lee Sin coming in. They are starting the Dragon as well. There are no flashes available, but there are heal and exhaust. They're able to turn around and get some damage in. Karsa was rotating over just in case. Uses his EQ combo and the pressure in mid lane to push himself back in. They know this is going down, but there's not a lot the side of JDG can do about it.
Yep. Luma wasted a little bit too much of his HP going in for the gank, and once again we saw both skill shots actually just miss coming in from Kanavi and Luma, so didn't work out that well. And the top side, I really like the way that Langx has been playing his lane. Usually when you look at top laners, when they play on blue side, they have almost a 2% win advantage, just because you can hold the wave in that location, that specific location. You can see if anyone is coming into the front brush, and you can also deny river ganks very well for most junglers. So just holding the wave there the entire time kept him completely safe. Karsa was able to roam around the map, and even though he didn't get a massive CS lead, it's just so comfortable to be there and have your team not have to worry about it.
And you can see the shove as well coming in from the Ashe and the Tahm Kench as well. It means they're able to get a safe back. It means Uzi does not get punished for not having the teleport, but Karsa now open this top side, going to spend a little bit of time with Zoom. Got to feel like if Zoom just go in a little bit too early, they're waiting for the hook shot. That's what they're waiting for. It's the goal sign. But I feel like with Langx not investing in that, you can see straight away Zoom understands that something isn't quite right. And I feel like these ganks are good opportunities, but they're a bit too telegraphed from the laners.
Yeah, they definitely feel a bit off, since Langx has been so peaceful the entire laning phase. I actually wouldn't mind if Karsa just showed himself and just like hard went for a gank there.
Oh, there's a 3v3 potential happening here. There is a TP available for Imp, none for Zoom, and it's going to be the Scuttle forfeited by the side of JD Gaming. This is a much more controlled setup from RNG, much more, I would say a much more calmer setup for them, and it looks a lot more like it's whatever's happening is because they decided it was happening.
Yeah. It feels like RNG are much more in control of themselves this game, and I like the slow build up towards a 1-3-1. I think they're less pressured to just have one lane carry the weight of the map. So they're spreading their resources equally. Karsa has been bot lane, he's been top side, he's got to kill in mid lane. all of these lanes are benefiting off of this. And when it goes to the very late game, they will have this, you know, this split push potential between Xiahu and Langx to just drag it out.
Navi got the blue buff there. That's a little bit of a whoopsie.
Whoops.
I just saw it there. I was just like, I don't think it went to Yagao, and unfortunately for him, it did not. So Navi not able to hand that one off to his mid laner, unfortunately for him, and that's actually sad times for the Corki. Just kind of needed it a little bit, but we live and learn, and now it's up to the Lee Sin blue buff to really try and decide whether or not he's able to do anything with this buff.
And RNG are actually just pretty happy to keep the lanes in this position. They're slowly grinding the turret platings down on the bot side. You kind of expect that with the Ashe versus Karsa matchup, and they've been defending it quite well as well. You know, there's multiple ganks into the bot line, no kills. Langx still doing the exact same things in the top, just making sure he holds on to this area of the lane where he's getting pushed in. He can CS freely, and he can also monitor if there's anyone that tries to come into that brush closest to him.
Karsa now just kind of making his way towards this Rift Herald, but as Navi just brings himself, I should say, over towards that side. And Zoom takes a bit of an unfavorable trade. Gonna have to use the hook shot to get himself out to safety. Karsa was off to the bottom end of that river as well, and they may look just to try and start this Rift Herald. Actually, it's going to be Karsa just making sure there are no wards for Zoom to TP in behind him from, as all TPs were available for the side of JDG. So good awareness from the RNG jungler, and a lot of time gifted over at the moment for the side of RNG, and we can take a moment to kind of breathe and, you know, relax a little bit. But so far, they're pretty damn happy with how everything's gone so far.
Yeah, they have full river control here, and it's just a matter of time where they can force people out of lane and start this Tahm Kench and Ashe roam. Like, they're going to have a long lane here in the bottom side. Most likely the Ashe is going to be middle for the 1-3-1. And that means whichever lane has the larger lead could then just go into that long lane, and they could freeze, you know, they could push in and get a rotational advantage. Just however you want to play the map, you're pretty much open to it.
What's your dream matchup at Worlds for a Chinese team?
Let me think.
Like we're assuming, you know, the Griffins, the Team Liquids, the G2s of the world are going to be coming in. As we see a plate gank going to be used, the Rift Herald going to give over a lot as everyone from the side of RNG comes over. And but yeah,
I want to see Doinby do well, you know, on the international stage, because, well, wait a minute.
To cut off here for a second as we see potential collapse here on the Kanavi. Perfect execution does take him down. TPs are coming in as well as Imp has joined the fight. They will be able to turn around a lot of this. There's the Hextech ultimatum, but a great arrow cross map is going to stun up the Camille. Zoom forced to back away. Imp is just trying to one-man army this. They will trade back the kills as much as they possibly can. Xiahu trying to go in on top of it. Gets 2 kills! Xiahu with the big outplay, the drive-by 5-point strike. And action has ensued.
Yeah, that was a 3v3 for both teams, but you definitely have to give the advantage to RNG. They take the tower in the process and a shoved in lane all the way on the bottom side. We'll say that JD Gaming actually split the target focus quite well on the back end of that. I thought with the arrow coming in, that was just the end of it. But JD Gaming actually danced around that pretty well for the outcome of this fight. You can see RNG coming in. They get the kill earlier on Kanavi. It looks really good from this point on, but then Imp, really good target selection, goes into the back line, you know, dodges out on Langxing's skill shot, and Xiahu plus Karsa just can't finish off these 2 targets until Xiahu decides, you know what, I'll do the cool play. That's definitely worth.
Well, that's making it into the Penta. As we see, Cloud Drake was stolen away there by JD Gaming as everyone had just committed towards that top side. Bot lane tower did go down as well. 2 towers now in favor to none in favor of RNG as they find themselves with a 3,000 gold lead, excuse me. And overall, this is the RNG we kind of expected to see, as they are the 3rd place team in the LPL. JD Gaming, of course, sitting down on 9th, just outside of playoffs. Actually, 10th, excuse me.
So close.
Yeah. They are 10th because it is WE and LNG who are currently fighting for that. As you can see, plenty of plates there going over. 9 out of 15 is not bad. Zoom going to be spotted out here. Oh, arrow swing is a miss. They're going to land the EQ combo there onto the Gragas, who's forced to use his body slam. Good explosive cast out to isolate the Karsa and see if they can get anything going for them there. They do get the stopwatch out of him, and he does end up dying straight away.
Just
Good
so
proactive
many
plays.
Yeah, that's so many initiation tools used right there. There was no way that JD Gaming could get out. It was EQ, Cataclysm, and Ash Arrow there to force some movement. Unfavorable positioning from JD Gaming, and I think this is what RNG typically needs in their successful compositions. They are a team that is very reliant on getting team fights sometimes to pull themselves ahead.
I feel like if I bring up another question as a hypothetical, they'll see more action. Because that literally happened as soon as I went to
talk about something else.
Yeah, as soon as I tried to LCK it, the team was like, "Oh, sorry, we're the LPL." No time. But yeah, Doomby. You want to see Doomby do well?
Yeah, I want to see Doomby do well in both playoffs and hopefully get to Worlds. Like, can you imagine? Doomby has never gone there yet.
Neither is Knight.
That is true, but
yeah.
Knight has that's a lot younger.
Knight is a lot younger. Doomby as well. I personally would love to see an FBX versus G2 best of 5. I think that would be insane. I, however, do think that G2 would actually win it. You don't want to say it.
No.
But I do believe. I think G2 are just monsters right now. That
they are more creative, I'll give you that.
I wouldn't say they weren't consistent, actually, because they just do random stuff and don't win with it. Like Garen top and Kha'Zix top. But then win with Soraka Smite top. I don't know what Wonder's trying to do.
They're just hiding their strategies at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I can't blame them.
Even the most outlandish picks from FPX don't really match up to it. Like, what was the craziest stuff that FPX did this split? Probably just
Pantheon and Poppy and Nautilus mid, and everyone was like, no way. And it was literally like a hold my drink from G2. It was just like, hold my drink. I'm about to end this team's whole career.
Nautilus mid is just kind of meta. That doesn't count.
That's true. It was kind of meta for like a patch, which was very quickly hot fixed. See RNG pushing in towards this mid lane, gonna get a little bit of chip damage, but nothing else to really get from it. Very hard to kind of come into this JDG lineup, even if there is only 1 or 2 people in that mid lane. They've got a fair bit of wave clear available to them. And overall, they're going to be, look at the items. We see the Black Cleaver finished up there for the Aatrox. You've got the Hextech Gunblade now for the Akali, Runans and the Bork for the Ashe. You've got a lot of ways of setting up this fight, but double Triforces have been completed there on the other side.
Yeah, so what I really like about JD Gaming's defense is they've allocated their resources very, very well. Look at that mid lane tower. Even when their side lanes are, actually slower on the rotations, they haven't really lost much damage here whatsoever. So, I think JD Gaming actually have a very good ebb and flow of this game here. They're picking up the side lane waves when they need to. They're not losing much on the map whatsoever. Yes, the river's taken over, but, Cloud Drake, whatever at this point. So I actually quite enjoy what JD Gaming are doing here, and it just comes down to that big moment when RNG tried to, force the rotation and say, hey, we're here for us. We're just going to try and get that mid lane tower, and JD Gaming will have the perfect opportunity to strike.
It's very reminiscent to Game 1. A little bit of higher gold lead for RNG, but, stalling out a poor early game into a pretty decent mid game is kind of how JD Gaming found themselves at the base, knocking on the door of RNG. And if the longer they can keep this mid lane turret up, the better it is for them. They're able to get so much farm now onto their Kai'Sa, who is looking like they're going to go towards a Guinzoo's, and Nash's too, so more towards the AP build. So curious to see how long that will take to come online. And again, like you said, we already have, or side of JD Gaming already have a Cloud Drake. No real loss there losing that one. They can use this time now to push out mid, push out top, push out bot, and then keep the vision control around that Baron pit.
Yeah, it does feel like RNG are kind of sitting back and allowing this to happen. A lot of times, if you want to hard force it, then you would sequence the ways where the side lanes hit the inner towers first, and then you get that roam potential, potentially have it 5v3 into the mid. But JD Gaming, with their wave clear, with Gragas support, which is, I think, something that's very underlooked, is how much wave clear he can actually provide with his build, is able to just hold off. And if you look at the CSs from the side lanes, JD Gaming actually haven't been losing much at all.
Yeah, there's only real kind of differences in that bot side, but again, it's Uzi. Uzi always, I don't know how he does it, but he always ends up with about 30 CS above everyone else. And 200 CS at 20 minutes is pretty much on the money for any AD carry. It's an average of 10 CS a minute.
It's a bit higher than that. It's closer to 12 actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but like for some reason, you know, Uzi's able to do more. He's always able to do it. But of course, you look across the map, you know, pretty even CS's, you know, a little bit of an advantage there, here and there, depending on where you look, but no real massive difference. And the gold lead is stagnated at 4,000 gold in favor of RNG. And we'll see where they want to go for this. It looks like they're just happy pushing in these side lanes. You talked about it earlier on in the game, the 1-3-1 setup that they have going for them. It kind of suits them to not really group up and fight.
Yeah, they're just continuing to power farm through their side lane carries, and the Baron's going to be the big difference maker here. It will force JD Gaming to come out of their turtle a little bit, but look what JD Gaming did. They actually anticipated this move, and they have some really good wards on the back line of RNG. If RNG want to kind of sneak this Baron, they will pay a heavy, heavy price with the Camille coming back.
Yeah, I've got some good flank wards as well, so 3 teleports available, all summoners available across the board. So if there is going to be a fight, it will be a full-out brawl, but it looks like the side of JD Gaming. Hanavi does not get caught out just yet, does have a ward to safeguard too, very important for him to be able to do that, of course. And they do protect this mid lane, however they were a little bit slower on the rotation, which means it does take a huge chunk out of it. And now JD Gaming, they may be feeling that they're forced to kind of go for something right now, because they're kind of slowly losing on all fronts, and that's going to just, you know, suit the side of RNG more than anything.
I think RNG are finally catching on to the cadence of grouping in the 1-3-1. This is a much better synchronization of their minion waves this time. You can see they have a much longer 5v3 time with this grouping. And
explosive cast was terrible.
Yeah, it didn't do anything.
I caused him like a siege him, and that unfortunately was hit 2 minions, and then that was about it. Didn't hit anything else they wanted to hit, so they do lose the mid lane turret. So 3 turrets to none in favor of RNG, and they finally crack open the map a little bit more. And in a 1-3-1 setup, that mid lane turret is so key to making sure that your 1-3-1 is 1, safe, and 2, sustainable.
That really just ties down the enemy AD carry and support from roaming that much at all. I would actually think in the 1-3-1, the side lane towers are more important than the mid lane towers. That's just my read on 1-3-1 most of the time, because long lanes allow you to freeze or power farm up your solo lane carries a lot easier. And most of the times in 1-3-1, the mid lane, the 3 guys are just there for quick rotations. They can't really push that far in. So it's mainly about just subduing Imp, subduing Illumal from roaming into River. And you can see RNG using that small time difference to get some vision there.
See what the call is now. No summoners expended as of yet. Still 4 TPs available. 3 of them, though, are on the side of JDG, so they should be technically faster on the rotations. As you see Uzi passing himself up, throwing out a volley as a sign of strength. Steric's Gauge now finished up for this Aatrox, slowly becoming that unkillable monster that we know and love.
A bit more of the tankier side of the build. Knows that he does need to frontline here in this comp. And moving towards his death dance as well. I usually think the death dance is when you see the scary side of Aatrox start to show up.
I don't know why, but it's straight away in my head. I just said, ask Clement what's his favorite color. Because nothing else is happening. Is it blue?
Yeah, it's blue. It's a calm, analytical color.
Analytical.
Yeah, you know, there's like blue people, yellow, and other colors.
I was like, where is this going right now? I'm not quite sure.
It's a personality test. Don't overthink it.
Never done one of those, actually.
Yeah, you should try. You'll learn a lot about yourself. I
like to treat them like star signs.
What am I? I'm like just introvert.
Yeah.
And
I like to, you know, it's like I get where they're coming from, and I'm obviously joking. Star signs are not a science, and obviously the personality tests are. But you know, I don't really put much stock in them.
I believe in them a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
So if
okay, after the broadcast, I'll show you the signs I read for 2018 and 2019, and you tell me if they weren't accurate.
Are you a Capricorn? because I'm a Scorpio, and that could. I think I asked us. I think it was either Jake or Raz, and I said, "What star sign are you?" And then I think Raz just responded with, "I'm lettuce." It was just like, all right, he just does not care.
That could be a star sign.
Maybe it wasn't Raz, but I know someone did say it I was chatting to them about it, but yeah. I don't know. So if a personality test just said, "Oh, you're extroverted now," you'd be like, "Oh crap, here we go. I'm an extrovert now, I guess."
Yeah, it's just like if they sort out your priorities for you. They kind of understand where you will be most conflicted in most scenarios. So I think it's an interesting thing to find out.
That's fair. That's fair.
Dude, come on, please land the arrow, Uzi. He was really timid on that one. I always feel like you could just go ahead and use it because the cooldown's actually fairly short on Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Or, knowing that the side of JD Gaming aren't going to check you just go ahead and start the Baron. And actually, this is going to be
This is pretty risky.
Pretty damn risky setup. They now know that it's probably going on. Actually, they have no idea! So unfortunate. They even saw the Hawk shot coming out.
They didn't suspect it?
And that's just a poor, poor decision there from JD Gaming. They do lose the Baron, and that was the most anticlimactic Baron dance I've ever seen.
I thought there would be a Baron steal, but the Q went straight into terrain, and it didn't even go into the Baron pit. Okay.
So back to star signs. I'm joking, I'm joking. RNG sneaked themselves a Baron at 27 minutes. This game feels very slow compared to the first one, and that first one was 41 minutes long. RNG, what can they do with this now? This is like the perfect tool for a 1-3-1 split push comp.
Yeah, honestly, what they do is they just push all 3 lanes, and whichever lane has fewer defenders, you send Tahm Kench and kill the lane. That's pretty much it.
Yep, you've got the globals with the Ash Arrow, you got the semi-global with the, the Abyssal Voyage.
You make sure that JD Gaming can't defend all at the same time, and the only tricky part about this is just making sure your waves hit at the same time. Now, you can see mid lane's probably a little bit too far ahead, so they'll have to wait on the next one to really set up a direction here. And, Langx has to go back, so just here and there, a little bit of time getting wasted.
Yeah, they'll lose about a minute or so of the Baron buff. They are going to get a bit of chip damage into this top side, so Xiahu just making sure he's keeping himself safe with a bit of a ward. But overall, exactly like you said, whichever has the least defenders, just keep chipping away, just keep tappa. And overall, not really much the side of JD Gaming can do.
JD Gaming have to be so careful because whenever they have fewer members here, Ash Arrow instantly goes in. You're going to get fully engaged on. So there's a lot of pressure to actually just give up some of the towers and try to find an initiation as soon as possible.
We'll lose the tier 2 in the mid lane. Almost certainly going to lose the tier 2 in the top lane. And JD Gaming, they're searching to see if they can get some kind of initiation. Otherwise, like you said, they're just going to kind of die a death of 1,000 cuts as we are now looking down the barrel of an 8,000 gold lead. A minute 20 left on this Baron push. Xiahu seeing if he's able to just kind of keep any more defenders towards that top lane inhibitor, while the side of Karsa and Langx just look to try and defend, or to push, I should say, into this tier 2 on bot side. The last easy objective, if you like, for the side of RNG before they hit inhibitors.
And here's where the real test begins. JD Gaming, they still have a lot of focus fire potential here, especially with the explosive cask. If they can land something on Uzi, it'd be very easy to instantly change their fortunes. They don't have a control word here, so they're not going to be able to hide that Gragas on that corner. And unfortunately for them, RNG don't have a ward on that side of the wall either.
And double cannon minions as well, and it's very difficult for anyone on the side of JDG at all to really get any kind of consistent damage onto these 2 cannons. So they alone are just pushing into this bottom side. They will eventually try and turn towards this mid lane, but this is just RNG stretching JDG, saying you got to make a choice, otherwise you're going to lose everything.
Yeah, and look at RNG. They're not timid at all. Ash Arrow used just to force people down, and they know there's multiple backs going on onto JD Gaming's side. They're not afraid of it. And before the Corki can come back into the team fight, just back off. Very smooth play for RNG. This has been a while since we've seen them go back to this style, but it seems like they're still quite adept at it. Something that people don't really realize about teams is atrophy introduces itself very quickly. If you don't play a composition for a while in scrims, a lot of teams actually just forget how to play that system.
Yeah. Got to have that muscle memory. Got to be able to see it regularly enough to know how to play against it, what the strengths and weaknesses are. That mid lane turret is very, very weak. So you can see, pick up the Infernal Drake, go back, spend some gold you just picked up. You've now got the Death Dance onto your Aatrox, the Morellos onto your Akali, the Leandries that was just quickly swolled away, turned into a Banshees onto your Akali. 4 items onto your Ashe. You just have so much money if you're on RNG side that there's no need to risk anything. You can just go back to pushing in mid lane, maybe send the Akali up top, and you know, Bob's your uncle.
Yep. Haven't actually lost a tower yet. So even if they get wiped in the siege, it's still going to be multiple team fights before JD Gaming can do anything. And I'm actually quite surprised that JD Gaming did not try to hard force an initiation when their inhibitor was being broken open. Very unlike JD Gaming in this one. Losing 1 inhibitor is manageable. Losing 2 is difficult. But if you lose all 3, it is nigh impossible to come back. Very few base defenses possible when you lose 3 inhibitors. You can see RNG now they want to try and look for this mid lane turn, but without the Baron buff and with a Corki who's picked up his Infinity Edge now with alongside that Triforce, it'll be very, very difficult to actually get these waves to stick. Most likely going to wait another 45 seconds or so till that Baron spawns. They'll go for that and they'll re-push out. This Aatrox is going to be massive. There's no
Aatrox is massive.
Yep, it's massive already. No healing reduction being built yet onto their team. And it actually doesn't look like they have any good champions to put it on.
Could tilt LS off the face of the earth and build Morellos onto Imp.
Not the greatest of ideas. The Guinsoo's Rage Blade.
It won.
Okay. The Guinsoo's Rage Blade has Last Whisper, so you basically never see people pick up another item for a Last Whisper line once you have the Guinsoo's done already. It does share the same unique passive there. So no Mortal Reminder is going to come out here, and I just want to see, you can tell Langx knows how strong he is against this composition. Great positioning here.
Yeah, just trying to keep Kanavi away. Baron down to about 50% HP. They do get the Squire's Blooms. They're able to see what's going on the top of this. Karsa jumps out of the pit though, and there's the arrow as well as they jump into the Cataclysm as well as the first big fight we've seen pretty much all game. As the first kill goes over, and there's Xiahu jumps in. It's a triple kill to Langx as he jumps straight in on top of the back line. They're going to see if the Camille can do anything. Quadra kill for the Aatrox, and RNG might just look for the game.
This is definitely going to be the end of it. The only question left is, can they find Karsa? They're going for it.
They're looking. They're seeing if they can just delay it. If it wasn't the Aatrox to look for the Penta, the rest of the team are just keep playing, keep away. You're not going to be able to defend your base, son. And it's all about this Karsa just not getting back. No saving Private Ryan. They actually may be able to kill the Karsa if they're lucky. Do not hit the Q, but it does not matter. They are able to take the rest of the base down. RNG will tie up the series after a quadra kill from the Aatrox. A great Baron base into a Game 2 victory. We're going to go to Game 3.
It's going to go the distance, boys. Good move on Imp in the final rounds there to snipe out Karsa, but not enough to get them back into the game. This is RNG going for a very slowed and controlled style. They had a freeze in the top side, a lane that was going to constantly chip on the bottom side. They defended all of their lanes very well, and just with that one lane getting the advantage, they were able to snowball the entire game away. So this is a very textbook way to play the game. I like how they slowed the pace down to a crawl, but made no mistakes whatsoever, gave JD Gaming no chances, and just took the game away.
And at that point, like we just said, literally as we said, this Aatrox is massive and there's no healing reduction. He comes in, literally goes untouched in an entire fight. No one can really do anything. Even if they do focus him, he's just got so much sustain. And overall, RNG 1-1 against JD Gaming. They may still be able to take this series. And overall, you know, like you said, slow, controlled, clean game from RNG. And not only that, we got to discover our own little bits of personality and star signs. It was a fun time.
Okay.
Can you tell how long that game felt? That game felt longer than game 1.
In the middle. Like, I'm pretty sure RNG were dead set on not losing a tower.
Yeah, RNG were like, you know what? We're not losing this game at all, and we're not taking any risks, so we're just going to play it nice and easy in a 1-3-1 setup. You called it from the champ select straight away that they were going to go for that 1-3-1. It just worked out with the comp. and they hard committed to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces and a lot of lane management techniques that they used there that I thought was very beneficial for other teams to study. They didn't try to crack multiple lanes at the same time. Always a rookie mistake. Always try to just get one lane down at a time. And, you know, they held the top lane wave. Langx had a perfect lane management throughout most of the early phases. There's no gank potential whatsoever. We didn't even see the jungler go up there. It was like, yeah, I can't kick that. I'm just leaving there. So it was really a very fun setup there, and I like RNG being able to branch out into different compositions. They could really fill into that comp with several different picks and play the same style as well, and that's a strong asset to have going into playoffs.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see if they are able to turn this into a 2-1 series win. We are going to take a short break, and when we return, we will have the end
finale.
of the, yeah, I was going to say finale. I don't know. I was going to say penultimate. I was like, that was the penultimate. But
they
the
still
ultimate
have something
game,
they're fighting over. The hearts and minds of the Beijing Knights.
Exactly. They're still fighting for the Battle of the Beijing is still yet to be decided. When we return after our break, we will have the third and final game.